Hello friends, welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make creamy and cheesy chicken and rice. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this. And really this is an easy recipe to do. It's just a few stages. You just work from one thing to the other until you're done. But in the end, you're going to get something that has such a great taste to it because the Parmesan cheese worked into the rice just gives it such a flavor. And then to have your chicken and all these other seasonings work together to work as a great mix. It just all is a wonderful meal. And this makes quite a lot, so you could feed a few people out of this. But the best thing about it is it's just got this creamy cheesy taste that just is so good. And if you like chicken, this is just the best because you're getting the best of all of this in there. And basically this is going to be just one of these things where you can just serve this by itself. You don't have to add a lot to it. So we're going to start off with a medium onion, which we're going to cut this into kind of like smaller pieces. Maybe you could go like medium chunks because it's going to cook down as you're cooking it. I'm just cutting across in both directions, so that way I cut mine into medium-sized pieces. And then we're going to have this ready for when we need it. So from here, we're going to move on to our chicken breast. You want to make sure you cut off all the fat because a lot of times you're going to get little pieces of fat here and there on your chicken and you don't want that ending up in your food. Then we're going to cut these across and then cut them sideways so that way we actually have cubes of chicken because we really want this kind of like cubed up. We don't want like thin slices or anything like that. We just want to cut them up to where they're decent sized pieces for going into our rice. And we're going to do this with both pieces of our chicken breast because we're only using 2 chicken breasts to do this. So go ahead and work your way through, get it completely cut up, and then we're going to move on to the next step of this. The best thing about this is 2 chicken breasts is probably quite a lot of chicken for this, and that's really a lot for, if you're feeding more than a couple people. Now we're going to move these chicken pieces into a bowl because we're going to season them and mix them up. So once they're all in there, we're going to go ahead and start with our seasoning. So we are going to add, to begin with, a half a teaspoon of garlic pepper blend, a half a teaspoon of paprika, a half a teaspoon of onion powder. And then we're going to mix this up because we want to make sure that all the seasoning gets all over top of all the chicken. So stir it up for a couple, maybe like 30 seconds or whatever, just to make sure that you get it mixed through because we really want to make sure that all the chicken is coated in the seasoning and it all gets the flavor that it needs. Next step from this is you're going to need at least a medium to large skillet to put this in to start with. And to that, we are going to start out with a couple tablespoons of butter, which we're going to melt in our skillet. So go ahead and get that melting. We want to melt this down a bit before we go on to the next step. So you're going to be over like a medium to high heat at this point. And we're going to get the temperature up in here because we are going to add in the onions that we cut up before. And once they're in, we're going to cook these for at least 3 minutes because we want to make sure that we get them well on the way to cooking before anything is added to them. So go ahead and stir them around. If any of your onions are sticking together, break them up with your spatula or spoon or whatever you're using. And you want to move these around a bit as they're cooking just to make sure that they actually get evenly cooked. So as I said, we're going to leave them in here for at least 3 minutes. And once we get to a point where we think that they're actually cooked through and they're doing really well, we're going to get ready to add garlic to this. So we're adding 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. And once this is in, we're going to mix this in with the onions and cook it anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. Now you're going to know when it starts cooking because it's going to get very garlicky smelling. You're going to know this all around your kitchen. You're going to smell garlic. That means it's working and that's what we want it to do. So once we get to the point where we feel that it's very much cooked through, at least 30 seconds worth, then we're going to add our chicken into the skillet. So go ahead and put in all your chicken and we're going to work this through with the onions and the garlic to get everything coated a little bit. And then once it's in here, we're going to cook this for at least 5 minutes or until the chicken doesn't look pink anymore. So stir it around a bit, get it moving, and continue to cook for at least 5 minutes. And it's going to look something like this once you're getting to a point where the pink is disappearing. And the best thing about this is like the onions and everything else is continuing to cook as well. So that way you're going to make sure they're cooked completely through. So go ahead and continue to stir this as it's cooking. This is a good time to look and make sure that everything is cooked in the chicken, that you don't have any pink parts left over. And as it's getting to this point, we're going to get ready to add some more seasoning to this in a minute, and we're going to move forward with a bunch of the other things that are going to get added to the skillet. Now, what we're putting in right now is we're going to add in 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. Then we're adding 1/2 a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Then you're adding in 1 cup of uncooked rice. And then 2 cups of chicken broth. Now the chicken broth is going to give this a kick of flavor as well, because this is going to cook into your rice as this is cooking. So we're going to bring this skillet up to a boil. We want to get this really hot because you have the rice in there and you want it to cook. Now once it gets to a boiling point, we're going to reduce this down to like less than medium so this can simmer, and you're going to put a lid on it because we're going to cook that rice, and that's the whole point of this point right now. We want to make sure that the rice is completely cooked through, because you don't want to eat into the rice and find out it's kind of crunchy or it didn't cook really well. So for 20 minutes that's going to take care of all of that. So but during the time that you have the lid on and it's cooking, we're not going to stir this. We're just going to let it sit in the pot with the lid on and let it do its thing, and that way it'll be totally undisturbed. Rice doesn't like to be messed with while it's cooking. You want it to actually heat up, steam up, and become the full rice. And then when you take the lid off after you come back to it, it'll look something like this. And that means your rice is cooked up, it's totally ready to go, and now you're ready to add in other things. And we are going to add in 1 cup of heavy cream. And then we're going to stir this up a little bit because we want to make sure that the cream gets mixed into the rice. Because at this point we want to see the rice absorb some of this heavy cream as it's cooking for the next few minutes. And once we get that all mixed together, we're going to add 1 cup of Parmesan cheese. And I'm using the kind that you get out of your refrigerator, you usually put it on pizza or whatever. If you wanted to use the real stuff, you could go ahead and do that as well. Not that this isn't real, but you know, this comes out of a container and it's a little bit cheaper. So mix it up, get this stirred in, because we want to get the cheese incorporated into the heavy cream, but we want the heavy cream everywhere so that way the rice can absorb it. So we are going to cook this for a few more minutes just so the heavy cream can absorb. So I would say I'd do it anywhere from maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and you're going to have this like, you know, on a medium or less temperature. We're not trying to like scald this or make it too hot. We just want it to cook in a little bit. Now when you get this to the point where it's absorbing and you want to see if you like the taste of it, you can add a little bit more salt and pepper if you choose to add to it, just to make sure that it's about what you want it to be. Because it could get to a point right now where you figure, hey, it's not enough salt in there, or you'd like a little bit more pepper, just because it's per taste. So once you get to that point, check that, and then you're just gonna let this cool. And when it cools down, it'll look something like this, and this will thicken as it cools down. So if it looks a little wet to you in the pan, that's fine. But this has such a great taste, and it's wonderful to eat. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available in bookstores worldwide. The first is about everyday cooking. The second is all about baking. Have a great day.